Today on Locked On Red Wings, Detroit survives another imperfect game, and Patrick Kane and Cam Talbot carry them to a 3-game win streak.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fischer and Scotty Bentley. Scotty's the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News, and I am the color commentator for Oakland University D1 Hockey. Scotty, 3-game win streak, buddy. 3-game win streak. It has not been pretty, but 3-game win streak is a 3-game win streak, and they're at 4-3 on the season.
I'm fired up, man. That was a win. Look, we're going to talk about it. They got heavily outshot yet again. There was a lot of aspects of this team that really did not look very good, but that was a bring the team together type of victory, man. That was really chippy. It was a lot of fights happening. A lot of 4-letter words said that the TV had to joke. They were like, "Oh yeah, we don't know what they're saying." That was a grinded out, really chippy, fight squad type of game. And the Rasmussen goal at the end had me fired the heck up, man. I was amped. I was, golly, that was awesome. I again, we'll talk about all the reasons why it wasn't awesome and all of the shortcomings this team had in this hockey game, but that was electric, and that was a heck of a way to get a 3-game win streak going.
I completely agree, and we will talk about that, especially the Rasmussen thing, because you know where I stand with Michael Rasmussen. So we will talk about that. It was the most electric goal he ever scored, and it was an empty netter. But Scotty, the difference makers in this hockey game, we start every episode with it. We talked ahead of time. For once, we talked ahead of time about what our difference makers are. So I want to get yours first, but before that, I got to let you guys know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. Scotty, your difference maker in this hockey game, who do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Showtime. I'm going to go with 88 there. He had an incredible game. I think the biggest thing with him in this game was that, and we'll talk about it later, the special teams was atrocious. This was a really brutal special teams performance. Both sides. The power play looked terrible for 2 periods, and the penalty kill looked terrible for 2 periods, 2.5 periods. So for Kane to go out there and have the big pass to set up Larkin, that was on the power play. And then obviously he scores the big goal as well. I just think he really was, by definition, the difference maker in this hockey game. The Wings got outplayed for a large majority of this. They got outshot to heck and back. But Patrick Kane was one of the biggest reasons why they won. This was a will the team by everybody, a will the team to victory type of third period, and that revolved around Patty Kane.
Right, and I don't want to lie to you guys. This wasn't a great game by Patrick Kane overall. I mean, when he was on a line with Tarasenko and Kasper at 5-on-5, they had 0 shot attempts for, 13 against. When Andrew Kopp was their center for 22 seconds, they had 1 shot attempt for and 1 against. So in this game, when Patrick Kane was out there, they had 1 shot attempt for and 14 against on his line. That's with the lines that he's with. Right. Overall, when he was out there, they had 11 for and 24 against. But it's just it wasn't a great performance by Patrick Kane as an individual. But when the team needed him most, he showed up, and that was on those 2 late power plays, which guys like Patrick Kane, this is kind of what they become later on in their career, right? They become power play merchants. Not to say that he doesn't have qualities that they can still benefit from at 5-on-5, but when the legs start to go, and let's be honest, he's not the fleetest of foot anymore because of the hip surgery and just being in his mid-30s, he can still rely on hockey IQ and insane stick handling and great vision and great passing to make it work when he's given time and space. And when are you given the most time and space? On the power play. And quarterbacking the point on this power play, back-to-back power plays for a power play that was not doing anything in this game. He set a beautiful shot pass to Dylan Larkin down low, who redirected it for his 4th goal of the year. That gave them a 3-2 lead. And then after the Devils tied it up shortly after on a power play of their own, because we will talk about special teams, penalty kill has been atrocious so far, they get another power play, and Patrick Kane again, high slot, gets the puck, shoots, scores. So while he may not have been the best at 5-on-5 in this hockey game, he came up clutch when they needed him most. And those are the types of intangibles that, Hall of Fame players have, and you don't win this hockey game without him in those moments.
For sure. And I think, it's not to say that it was like a super inspiring performance at 5-on-5, but I think that was just pretty much every line, I would imagine. And certainly that, they ended up going 11-7, which didn't help anything either. Like, I mean, it was, again, we'll talk about it plenty, I'm sure, but it was not great. And the only way they win this hockey game was to either start scoring on the power play or magically start possessing the puck a lot more. And the latter was never going to happen. So they went out there and scored on the peeper, and here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us to the other difference maker in this game, at the other end of the ice, and that is Cameron Talbot, as they called him on the broadcast today. Cameron Talbot in net for the Detroit Red Wings. Another guy who is in his late 30s on the Detroit Red Wings, but he came up big. He had, 38 saves in this hockey game. Save percentage, I believe, .927. I can double check. I have the box score up in front of me. Yeah, .927, 38 saves. A goal saved above expected of just .90, but the biggest thing to me here is he allowed 3 goals. All 3 are on the power play. He didn't allow a single 5-on-5 goal, and they took 41 shots in this hockey game. This is another game where the Detroit Red Wings, and we'll talk about it. Don't worry, guys. They won, but we still have plenty to critique about this hockey game. Because it was another game where they were on their heels and couldn't get any offense going. You needed your goalie to step up big. And the last 2 games, you've had Alex Lyon step up huge for this team. There were some reservations about switching Alex Lyon out. I actually was okay with it because Alex Lyon had faced such a heavy workload the last 2 games. I was all right with giving him a break. Cam Talbot came in and got the job done. I mean, we talked about it. This is a team that very well could make or break based on their goaltending this year. If the goaltending's mediocre, they're not going to win a heck of a lot of games, especially with how they play in front of these goalies right now. But if the goaltending can give them chances to win, which is Cam Talbot did that plus more in this hockey game, they're going to have a shot in every single game, and they did in this one, and they converted. 0 5-on-5 goals against despite getting shelled. There was maybe 1 goal he might want back. I think that was that 3rd goal, the second by Fischer, where it was kind of just like a knuckle puck to the corner. But outside that, he was tracking the puck really well. He was making 2nd, 3rd saves on rebounds. He looked solid.
Yeah, and even the rebounds that he did have were to no man's land, right? That was, I think, the most impressive thing that I saw from him in this game was the rebound control. There wasn't there just wasn't any, but anytime there was a rebound, it was to a sea of red, and it wasn't, near any Devils players, which was really nice to see. So yeah, I think the point that you brought up there, no goals on 5-on-5 is huge. That obviously, I mean, the special teams as a whole was just such a roller coaster of emotion throughout this hockey game. But I think about halfway through the game, you started getting really confident in Talbot back there. And yeah, man, is this a sustainable way to win hockey games? To just put Alex Lyon and Cam Talbot in 2024 through the ringer every night and get outshot by, double the amount of shots? No, but to know that it is possible for those 2 guys to take over a game, it is reassuring this early in the season, because that's something that was a huge question mark going into the year.
And I mean, listen, here's the thing, and I said it on social media, I'll say it here. These are ugly wins. I think the Predators, of these 3 games they've won, the Predators game was probably their best game. And I've said it, and I say it again, they played good through 40 minutes. The 3rd period was a really hard push. by the Nashville Predators. They were winless. They were in their home barn. So I can kind of excuse away why they got shelled in the last 20 to 30 minutes of that hockey game. The game against the Islanders, we knew going in that matchup was bad for the Detroit Red Wings, but despite that, 11 shots on net is inexcusable for an NHL hockey team to get, but they still got the win. In this game, they just barely eked it out to 20 shots. They were getting peppered all night long because the same problems.
A crazy sentence in a 5-goal game.
Yeah,
they barely squeaked out 20 shots. They scored
insane.
5.
Which, I mean, we were talking yesterday about how they hadn't scored more than 3 goals without an empty net, and this time they scored 4. But it's one of those situations where, like, it's really concerning that this is how they're winning games because we know that it's not sustainable. Like, you can't just put your goalie out in front of a firing squad every night and then score on, like, 10 shots and win games and get to the playoffs. But at the same time, this team is very sick right now. We know the flu's been going around for the last week and a half. That doesn't explain all away the poor performances, but it does help explain away part of it. They're clearly still figuring things out offensively. Chemistry's not great yet. They don't look comfortable on the ice. Yet they're still finding ways to win games. And that is incredibly important because good teams, bad teams, whatever it is important to find ways to win games if you want to contend, even when you're not at your best. And they have continued to do that. They're 4-3 on the season. They have 8 points. They're right in the thick of things. They're tied with 4 other teams for second in the division right now with 8 points, despite not playing their best. So I think that they will get better, and you'll start getting better results. And this is not sustainable, but it's still good that they're finding ways to win despite that.
Yeah, the glass half full approach is like, well, when they do figure it out, then, if you can be around 500 in this gauntlet of a first month of the season without even playing your best hockey, that would be really, that would inspire a lot of optimism or inject a lot of optimism into, us certainly, and probably most of the fan base, because, if they can figure it out and start looking a lot better than they have, then you're talking about a team that could be pretty darn good. But we have not seen that really through 60 minutes yet so far, 7 games in, but they're over 500. So
4-3 on the season, somehow miraculously. In segment 2, we'll, as usual, give you our notable performers outside of our difference makers. So stay tuned for that in segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. They are the best place to get real money action on sports. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup alive. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, this is kind of the opposite of the game against the Islanders, where that game was so boring and had so little action. Like, we were really stretching to mention notable performers in that hockey game. This is the opposite. This is a game that had a lot of action, and we have probably more notable performers than we have time, so we'll try our best to compress it, and we will probably fail.
Yeah, I'm going to start off with the captain there. I thought he played a pretty solid offensive game in this one, which is, again, not something that we can say top to bottom with this team. But obviously, the goal he scored, beautiful feed by Kaner. But, I thought he was really buzzing. He was kind of all over the ice. I also think that he had a couple of really good forechecks, which were also few and far between in this hockey game. But, we'll gladly take a goal and a +1 in the box score for Larks.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. He was one of 5 players on this team with an expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5 of over 50%. And that means a lot for Dylan Larkin because he's a guy who gets used in all situations against the toughest competition, as you would expect of your number one center and captain.
Right.
So to come away from a game in which your team got absolutely shelled, playing the most minutes on offense, second most on the team because he totaled out with 23 minutes. That was only second behind Moritz Seider's 24-51. And still be above in counting metrics like shot attempts, shots, and all that is really impressive. And then to cap it all off, of course, he had the 1 goal, a beautiful redirection. Of course, Patrick Kane did all the work on that beautiful pass, but Dylan Larkin did a nice job of just sneaking behind the defense from behind the net, getting open where the defenseman did not realize he was standing. On top of that, he power play, penalty kill. He went 13 for 26 in the faceoff circle, so solid 50%. The whole team as a whole went 50% against the Devils in the faceoff circle. I think it's the first time all year that they've been decent in the faceoff circle.
Yeah,
he also
right.
led the team in takeaways too, and I mean that's a very arbitrary stat. Like what's a takeaway versus what is the other team giving the puck away? But still, three takeaways for Dylan Larkin as well. He played a very solid, well-rounded game. He was one of the few players who could actually get the puck across the blue line and start something in the offensive zone.
For sure, absolutely agreed.
Let's talk about the dog, Christian Fischer. Our boy
dog was an
dog.
apple away from a how there in
Yeah.
in this one, man. Had a goal and a fight. I love him. I think that's my takeaway. I just absolutely love him. And I know that a lot of the city feels the same way. I adore him. And I actually thought he had a solid game.
I agree.
This was a pretty solid performance from Fish, and obviously the goal was really nice. But I thought he was pretty sound defensively, which again, not something that was said by too many players in this game. And I thought he was buzzing too. Yeah, I really liked what I saw from Fischer in this one.
Yeah, they got that. They got that shutdown line back together. They played the majority of the time together. Again, they played 11-7 because Comfer was sick. So they were down a true center, but you could have Joe Veleno easily slot back in. But it looked like they were doubling up Casper and Kopp for the most part in this hockey game. And they had the shutdown line out there when they could. They got that line back together, and it produced a goal. And I don't want to brush over that goal that Fischer scored either, because that goal was the result of something that we have not yet seen in the season, and that's off winning a puck battle in the corners. That was a dump and chase in which the chase was successful. You saw Veleno come down hard on the defenseman below the net, who rushed a clearing attempt up the boards. Kopp got to that puck first, sent it out front. Fischer picked up the rebound and just buried it. So, Fischer went to his spot and buried it. That's great. It was a nice goal. But that goal does not happen without them actually having a successful forecheck for the first time all season.
Right.
It was a little bit off. It wasn't they had sustained pressure in the offensive zone, but it was the result of a successful break-in. That is not something that they've had all year long. Most of their goals, like the DeBrincat goal that happened 25 seconds later, who, now he's got 3 goals in 7 games, which is nice that he got back on the board, but that was the result of a errant pass by the New Jersey defenseman coming out of the defensive zone, turned it over to Cat, who just came to the slot and shot and scored. That's how the Red Wings last year and this year seem to be getting a lot of their goals. That's why I like that Fischer goal, because that was down and dirty. That was actually winning puck battles, getting the puck to the net and scoring goals. That was a good 5-on-5 shutdown line goal, and I love to see it.
I think everybody does. And you mentioned Cat there. That's obviously another goal scorer in this game. We had the long conversation yesterday about, where this team was going to get goals throughout the course of the season. He is the X factor. He is the one. Right. He is the X factor when it comes to this team's goal total at the end of the year. And that's not to say that his performance is completely all that matters, but he can have the biggest sway in what this offense can be this season. It is Alex DeBrincat. It is nobody else. It is him. If you get a last 4 months of the season type of full year from him, then you're talking about that's another guy in your top 6 that's not scoring goals, and you're talking about putting a lot of pressure on your top 4 or 5 guys to score a heavy majority of your goals. He completely changes that conversation and the dynamic of it. If you can get even close to the goal scoring that you thought you were getting when you traded for him. It was a beauty too. I mean, beautiful, just wrister, went far side. It was really nice. He just, yeah, like you said, 3 goals on the season. That's not a bad clip at all. He is the difference maker over the course of the season. He is the difference maker of this offense.
Well, and this is a game we talked about it yesterday. The top 6 needs to be able to produce for this team to succeed. And again, we got to do something about like the breakouts, the transitions. That's still a huge.
The transition
concern.
game is an atrocity.
It's
it is
awful.
an embarrassment to transition games.
But this was a game where the top 6 was able to produce goals and assists. Now, granted, these guys play together, so when one scores, the other guys are going to get the assists. I'm aware of that. But, DeBrincat's picked up a goal and an assist. He got the secondary assist on Patrick Kane's. Obviously, Kane got a goal and an assist. He got the primary assist on Larkin's. Larkin got the goal. Raymond had 2 assists in this game, a primary assist on Patrick Kane's, as well as the secondary on Dylan Larkin's power play goal. So 2 power play assists for Lucas Raymond. He's got 6 points in 7 games. So even though he's not scoring, he's producing in other ways. Like that's a good sign of things to come, but they just have got to find a way to build sustained pressure, and that's what concerns me.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of things. Like it's not only is it sustained pressure, but it's also just keeping the puck, dude. Like you are not going to get consistent offensive opportunities if every single offensive opportunity you have is a one-timer. Like you need to be able to cycle and keep the puck in the offensive zone, and they can't. For the life of them, they can't so far this season. And so that is really like my biggest frustration with the offense. But I mean, again, all of that considered, the fact that they were able to take advantage of the few opportunities they did have, and Cam Talbot, there you go. That's a win, and we'll take it.
Right. We'll finish up any notable performers as well as just get to other news and notes before. I don't even want to call it a preview of the back-to-back games they have this weekend, but they play 2 games this weekend, and we will make note of it. It'll be an anecdote at the end. Stay tuned to segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. Got to talk to you guys today about FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, Michael Rasmussen, notable performer just simply for that empty net goal. That was the most electric Michael Rasmussen goal I've ever seen, and it was on an empty net simply for the fact that he saw Jack Hughes coming. He still skated to the front of the net, and he buried that, knowing that Jack Hughes was coming full tilt on a charge, and he just leveled Jack Hughes and then stood over him and taunted him. Just elite levels of just serial killer vibes from Michael Rasmussen.
Yeah, man. Big dog got to eat. That was electric. That was, it's crazy because like this was a game that had that, like we saw fights, we saw really chippy, like we saw scrums left and right. Like this was a really physical, chippy hockey game, and yet I think from the Wings fan perspective, that was the moment of the night, and it was just an empty netter to put it away with 30 seconds left. That was absolutely electric, and I hope that one of our many fantastic photographers got him just screaming at Hughes while he's laying down on the ice, because that was an absolute electric moment for sure.
Oh, dude. And I think the reason why it was so electric was because of all the chippiness that led up to it. I mean, these two teams by the end of the night hated each other.
Yeah, dude, they were seriously chirping back and forth the entire game. Like
there were 2 fights.
Yeah, well, I mean, even sans the fights, like obviously that is going to be the focal point, as it should. But I mean, these were every time the play went dead, there was somebody talking to somebody. Both captains were going at it, were jawing at each other the whole time. Like this was, the benches were going at it in the penalty box. The 2 teams were going at it through glass in the penalty box. Like this was This was a really fun hockey game, and it's fun because they ended up winning.
Yeah, I just checked while you were talking, and USA Today Sports, at least, who we use for our images, does not have the photo of Rasmussen over top of Jack Hughes, and so that kind of is a bummer. But there's other media outlets that might have it. Scotty, that was a great moment. We haven't really talked a lot about other things in this game that bother us. Obviously, the 5-on-5 was bad, and that was a result of, again, the same old. You get hemmed into their own zone. They can't get to the puck. They can't transition out. We've talked about that to death. People know that's an issue. That was still an issue in this game. But special teams was brutal in this hockey game. And
Absolutely
I heard a stat.
Atrocious.
I heard a stat at one point, and this was before the third power play goal, that they had allowed like 9 goals on their first 23 penalty kills, and then they allowed another one. And so, like, I don't know what's going on. I mean, this was a special teams that last year was top 10 in both categories, I believe. It might have been 11th on the penalty kill.
Without giving up a PK goal. You remember that?
Yeah. I do.
January? They went a full month without giving up a shorthanded goal.
And this is largely the same personnel.
Right.
I don't even know if anyone on the PK has shifted from last year, because most of the guys we lost were depth scores who were only played.
Oh, baby.
Sure. Well, I mean,
Marco Casper, it's a little bit, but yeah, the nucleus is still pretty much the same for sure.
For the penalty kill, absolutely. So, like, I don't know what's going on, what changed, but they are not doing a great job of insulating the goalie down a man. And that, I mean, I talked about it. Cam Talbot didn't allow any goals on 5-on-5, but they got scored on 3 times because the penalty kill was abysmal.
They gave up 3 goals, so not great for the kill. Not great. And then the power play looked atrocious. Looked absolutely atrocious for 2 periods. Thank goodness for Patrick Kane there in the third. But that was the worst one. Was the one coming out of the second period, right? Like, I think we can all agree that was an absolute abomination to power plays, completely useless. And that is what the first 2 periods was kind of full of. It was just.
And those are the things that we're talking about, where we say, like, it's great that they're finding ways to win, but they got to figure this stuff out because it's not sustainable. Like, good teams find ways to win when they're not playing their best, and this team is sick and clearly not clicking. But if you can continue to not click, eventually it's going to catch up to you, right? And the inability to win puck retrievals, puck battles, and in transition is really concerning at 5-on-5. That's why they continue to be on their heels, because they don't get any offensive zone time. They're not able to set up, and then the defensive zone, they just can't chip it out. All they can do is rather chip it out when they finally get the puck after 4 or 5 shots.
I know I already ranted about it like 3 times this week, so we don't have to go down that rabbit hole again. But they are still atrocious at just getting the puck out of the defensive zone.
But then, then you get the special teams. You're like, okay, here's what we'll make up. Last year, that's especially where they made up their lack of 5-on-5 skills was on their power play. They had a top 10 power play.
Correct.
Those first 2 power plays and a lot of the power plays we've seen prior to the 2 Patrick Kane ones at the end of the game here were brutal. But they did have a really good penalty kill to end the game out after a horrible, horrible tripping call on Jeff Petrie. Cotter was already falling.
We can talk refs.
Yeah,
that was on earth, man. Like, I really try so hard not to bring officiating into analysis, because I think over the course of 82, more times than not, it evens itself out. Like, these refs are still the best of the best for the most part, especially in North American sports. But that was for both sides, which is why I feel comfortable bringing it up. This was wild to watch. There were some terrible calls and terrible no calls for both teams in this game.
Well, so you start. I can remember exactly in the first period 3 that really annoyed me. First and foremost, you had the Larkin hit from behind, not by Dylan, was rough. Then you had
that one frustrating because it just happens all monthly. It's just Larkin got completely crushed into the boards directly from the back, and it wasn't a call. Okay, it must be a day that ends in Y.
Yeah. And then you had the very clear interference on Lucas Raymond in the neutral zone,
Right.
followed shortly thereafter by the softest slashing call I've ever seen on Moritz Seider. And then on that penalty kill, Ben Sherratt was held in the corner, which resulted in the turnover that allowed Nico Hischier to score the first goal of the game. It's like, what are we doing here, referees? And so at first I was like, wow, these refs suck for the Red Wings. And then they just began sucking overall. Like, how did... I still don't understand how Christian Fischer...
I don't know how we got a power play on
Fischer's fight. And, like, I'm not even trying to say that Dylan's... Like, the hit on Dylan was, like, dirty. Like, the primary point of contact was at his... Like, in his side. He intentionally came around and got him in the side. It just looked bad by the way it finished.
Sure.
So, like... But just the fact that after all that, like, Dylan gets up and defends himself. I guess they're going to call it the roughing or retaliation. That's fine. I get it. But, like, in that type of situation, you just always want to take two because it's just going to fan the flames further. You had the tripping call on Petrie in the third that we were just talking about. And I'm sure there's others that I can't even... Oh, the high sticking on Patrick Kane. Yeah, the one where, like,
was it DeBrincat that did was on the breakaway? And his blade hit his, like, the outside of his kneecap. And that was it a hook or a trip or whatever? Like, it was... Yeah, man, it was all game for, and again, both teams. Like it was wild. But 4-3,
4-3. It was a
play journey, baby.
Play journey. Yeah, I think we covered everything. Except for we got back-to-back games on Saturday and Sunday. That's fun.
Buffalo and Edmonton. Yeah, I mean Buffalo is what we've said about Buffalo. Like I don't think we're really off base with how everyone has kind of felt about them for a while. That's gonna be a real test for a team that has given up a lot of shots. Like this is a team that has the ability to put up a lot of shots. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But they continue to struggle on the defensive side of the puck. So we'll see maybe if the offense is able to break away. And then Edmonton is doing their patented slow start. So as you said before we hit record, maybe, an opportunity to steal a point or two against a team that we all know eventually is going to be really good, but maybe is getting off to a little bit of a slow start.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's crazy about Edmonton, too, because they are second best in the league in Corsi for percentage at 5-on-5. So, shot attempts for versus shot attempts against. They have a 58% shot attempts for over shot attempts against.
Again, it's just like all those numbers. It's just such a small sample size. Like that's going to happen. That's hockey.
Yeah, so, take advantage of a team that's underperforming right now, their expectations. Well, you're a team that's overperforming your performance on the ice. Right. So, Buffalo Sabres, by the way, 10th in the league in Corsi for percentage at 5-on-5. So, the Sabres are just... That's a more important game than the Edmonton game. I mean, every game is important, right? But this is a divisional game against a team just like you trying to make a step in the right direction. They're 3-4-1, so they're off to a worse start than you are. Especially the first half of a
back-to-back, too. You always want to win game one of a back-to-back because those second ones are tough.
Well, and stop me if you've heard this before.
Stop.
They have like 4 players who are at or just below point a game, but their goaltending and defense sucks. Like UPL's 903 save percentage so far in the year. And like UPL's a good goalie. I'm not trying to disparage him, but I'm sure he's more of a result of the defensive, front in front of him. But this Buffalo Sabres team is exactly what I've said they were for the last 3 years. Yeah. They're a high-scoring offense that uses the high-scoring offense to cover up for their issues in the defensive zone. And I can't talk a lot of smack because I've just got done watching the Red Wings limp their way to a 3-game win streak on the back of horrible special teams and a horrible 5-on-5 play, yet phenomenal goaltending that it will not hold. But this is a Buffalo Sabres team that I've reiterated time and time again, like they are very imperfect, and they refuse to actually address their real needs. And they'll beat us.
Anything else you want to say about the Buffalo Sabres?
I'm very passionate about the Sabres because I'm negative about them because they are a team in Atlantic Division. I know I'm not supposed to have this opinion, but they're a team that I've always wanted to see succeed. They're like perennially the underdogs in the league because they're always they haven't made the playoffs in 16 years or something like that. Like, they have the longest playoff drought in the NHL. So, I've always rooted for the Sabres to get their crap together. And so it frustrates me when they have a young, talented core and they can't do that. Of course, it's fine. I'm fine with it when they lose to the Red Wings. That's obviously the first priority. But just, I don't get it. I don't get how you fail to do this year in and year out.
Do you want like segment 4 where we talk about Buffalo or?
Well, I still got to talk about Edmonton too. I haven't even talked about Edmonton. We know what Edmonton is. I don't need to talk. They slow. You recapped it nicely. Slow start. They'll get their crap together. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
We ball.
Do you have any
Let's
final
go.
thought? You want anything about the Sabres you want to throw out there? Or?
No, but I would really like to talk about the New York Islanders again.
Okay, I'm sure you would. I'm sure you would.
All right. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.